Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Plafchan. I'm actually talking to you from the slopes of Mauna Kea. That's a volcano that goes more than 13,800 feet above sea level on the big island of Hawaii. So you can see in the background there's some clouds, currently at an elevation of 10,000 feet above the sea level. We're actually above the clouds. So I'm an astronomer, a professor of astronomy at George Mason University. And my area of expertise is looking for planets around other stars. So that means, not looking at Mars and Jupiter and Saturn in our own solar system, but discovering thousands of planets that orbit stars other than our own. And we call those exoplanets. So I work in a space-related field. I use telescopes on top of this mountain. This is the best site in the world to do astronomy. It's because we're so high in elevation, 14,000 feet above sea level, and because we're surrounded by 2,500 miles of ocean in any direction. So there's not much atmospheric turbulence. So we get these crystal clear views of our universe on top of this mountain. So you had some questions about the work that I do and what it took to get me here. In order to study astronomy and study our universe, it's a good idea to get a college degree in a STEM-related field, so science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, personally, I'm a scientist, so I got my undergraduate degree in physics and my PhD in physics, and then I went on to be an astronomer at Caltech before moving to George Mason in my new professor position. And so I took a lot of classes in physics and computer science. An essential skill for anything that we do is knowing how to program a computer, because if you don't know how to program a computer, then you're only as good as the tools that other people have written. And oftentimes we deal with really unique data, and there aren't tools to look at the data that we've obtained. So we have to work on it ourselves. Some of the other questions you asked are, does our work make the world a better place? Well, I'm talking to you and recording this video with my cell phone. And my cell phone has a camera in it called a digital camera. Inside that digital camera is the actual piece of silicon that records this video, and we call that a charged coupled device, a CCD. Well, astronomers in the 1970s started using the very first CCDs, way before they were ever available to the public. That's because they cost a lot of money. In fact, some digital cameras used in professional astronomy today cost upwards of $5 million. But in the 1970s, the very first digital cameras were only 1 pixel in size. And today your digital camera on your cell phone might have 10 million pixels. And so we'd make images of the sky back in the 1970s, 1 pixel at a time. Just go take an image, take an image, take an image, take an image, and build up an image. And that was, at the time, very fundamental research. No one was using digital cameras for anything besides astronomy and the military. But, back then everyone was using photographic film. But we perfected the technology through our engineering work, mechanical and electrical engineering work, and we made the digital cameras cheaper. We made them more sensitive. And 20 years later, in the 1990s, they started appearing in consumer devices, and the rest is history. So next time you take a selfie, you can thank astronomers for the fundamental science and development that went into making the digital camera. There are many other examples of the work that we do that continue to benefit society. But to move on to your next question, do you have to be an astronaut to go into space? So I personally have never been into space, I just look at it. But you're alive in a really interesting period in time. We have a bunch of new exciting companies, private companies, that are working to be able to launch private citizens, aka you, into space. About 15 years ago, the cost of sending someone who is not an astronaut into space was about $20 million. That was people that went aboard the Russian Mir space station. They would pay $20 million for training and a ticket to ride up onto the space station for a week. Well, now we have a company called Virgin Galactic, and they have launched a small suborbital spacecraft. It doesn't orbit the Earth, but it goes up and then it comes back down. And they're planning to send people in space as soon as next year for about a ticket price of $250,000. That certainly sounds very expensive, but someday that might get cheaper. But you don't have to be a professional astronaut to go into space, even today. Looking towards the future, there's another company that you may have heard about called SpaceX. And they've basically reinvented the rocket. NASA perfected the rocket over the past 50, 60 years, but a lot has changed technology-wise since then. And so SpaceX started from scratch and built their own rocket. And now they're a very successful company flying satellites and flying supply missions to the International Space Station at a fraction of the cost of other traditional aerospace company rockets. So on the order of, say, $60 million a launch. And soon, they're going to be sending people to the International Space Station. And they have plans within the next few years to send 2 tourists at a couple $1 million apiece to orbit the moon. So to go fly around the moon and come back. So I think the future is very bright with companies like SpaceX. There's another company that's building space hotels. They actually have a test one right now attached to the International Space Station. International Space Station, by the way, flies around the Earth every 90 minutes, about 250 miles above the Earth's surface. There's actually a website you can go to, and they'll tell you when's the next time you can see the International Space Station fly overhead. And if it's a clear night, you can look out just after sunset, and you can see this dot moving across the sky. And that's got people on there. It's an amazing thing that we have people orbiting in space as we speak. So I hope you enjoyed this information about our universe and about space. And I'd be happy to take more questions from you over email or contact me. All right, thank you. It's a pleasure talking with you.